Hi, welcome to Detours Understanding Acquired Brain Injury. Um, and I want to talk to you about forgiveness and cutting the Gordian knot. My name's not Mark the Great. I don't plan on going out and conquering all of Asia. But I do want to talk about cutting my own personal Gordian knot. Recently I had lost an important friendship to me. And this person, like me, has brain injury. And I've lost other friends who have brain injury too. And this loss hit me particularly hard. But part of the thing that was so difficult was I didn't understand why this friend of mine was angry with me. What happened? What didn't work? Communication can be difficult. When you're a survivor with brain injury, communications is difficult. And it's hard for all of us, honestly, with brain injury. And finally, I got some information that, putting it all together, I finally had a realization. And I've looked at mentally thought about other times when I've lost friends with brain injury. And I've come to a realization, and that allowed me to finally cut through this frustration that I often get when people, just don't talk to me anymore, whatever, when I lose these friendships. And this happens to all of us with brain injury. We lose friendships or things. We may care, we may not care that we lose these people, but in the end, it's isolating, or why we lose family contacts. Many of us end up very isolated. We lose contact with our family, and it's easy to blame the other person, or sometimes we get upset and don't know what we did or what happened. Thinking about it, at least what I find is that friendships between people with brain injury, oftentimes it's usually the brain injury that we have in common. If you look at it carefully, we'll have many, many symptoms in common. And because a lot of times with the neuronormies, as I call them, they don't get it. So we look for people who share brain injury in common with us. And so oftentimes we'll have a lot of disabilities in common. It's sort of like if you and somebody else have problems reading in common, reading a book will be equally challenging for both of you. And while you may share that challenge together, the thing is that you would definitely not be able to struggle through a book. Well, in the case of, say, this individual and myself, we both do have some deficits in, say, emotional processing and dealing with those aspects. And so it makes handling a friendship hard, really hard. And so overall, I've found that people that I've made connections with who've left in my life, they tend to have a lot of the same disabilities I do. And the problem with that is, what that means for then is that making and holding a friendship, it might be obvious to a person who's a neuronormie. Hey, well, duh, if you have emotional processing deficits, if you get angry easy, if you tend to be more self-centered or cognitively inflexible or all these other things, well, duh, you won't be able to maintain a good friendship. You'll get in arguments. You won't see things the same way. You won't be able to think. Well, yeah, true. But unfortunately, sometimes I'll miss the obvious. And this is true for a lot of other folks with these problems, these deficits, and other disabilities too, ADD, ADHD, autism, other things. If we're together, and that's the only thing that really ties us together is these problems, yeah, that's going to make it hard. And although this may seem a small realization, it's important to understand this if you don't have these problems, that maybe that's why your loved one is having a problem, because they and the people they're with have the same disabilities. And then the second point is, how many things do you really have in common with that other person? If you're maintaining a friendship with somebody, do you share interests in common? While they often say in relationships, opposites attract, research says no, that's not the truth. It is you need similarities and not differences in common. And again, with people I was not able to hold together, we had very few interests in common. Like I think about this recent loss of mine, we had almost nothing in common. Different generations, different genders, different came up with different life experiences. And that definitely makes it hard to bind and maintain a friendship. And so as a result, I think it's important to consider hard that when you are looking at your friendships and wondering if there's going to be a problem or if there is a problem, um, maybe it's because the only thing you have in common is your brain injury. And if that's it, and you just happen to have the same kinds of problems, it may present some difficulties, especially if you don't have a lot in common. If you're just different social circles, different emotional circles, different, you were raised differently, you have different political philosophies, which this friend and I have different political philosophies and different religions. It just is fuel, especially when combined with difficulties in recognizing your own problems or differences in processing emotions and things like that. So this is the Gordian knot I cut through. I realized this is why there were always problems. This is why, and why I've had problems with specific other friendships. There's this deep running, like, lack of connection at a deep level, which is what you need. And so if you're working on looking for friends and other things, look for people who share your hobbies and who share your deep interests. So, yeah, they, if you wish to find a connection, that is what I would urge, is remember, it can't just be your brain injury that you share in common. And if you have the same disabilities, it may not lead to a good relationship. Now, remember, every brain injury is different and all of us are unique, but when it comes to the social, emotional processing deficits and to cognitive problems, please, keep that in mind and how it may impact. That's mainly what I want to focus on, and like how that may affect it, and as well as you need to have interests in common to keep those connections. So that's, just cutting through that Gordian knot and realizing that will lead to forgiveness. The ability to forgive yourself instead of blaming yourself, and the ability to forgive the other person if they've hurt you, because that's not their fault any more than you messing up or having problems is yours. And that forgiveness you do will allow you to move forward and say, look, this is just incompatibility. My friend, I forgive you and I forgive me. It's just the way it goes sometimes, it's just unfortunate. I wish it had gone better, but it's not your fault, and it's not my fault either. It just, because of the nature of things, you can't just have your brain injury in common. So hopefully you have some tools to help cut yours or your loved one's Gordian knot, which may be challenging their development of friendships. Bye. Please click like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. And please leave any comments below, any thoughts or anything like that.